Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and guide along the way. And here we are back into the conversation about making ideas concrete with Jay Gilligan. And yet again, we are sort of course, it's the conversation is the same. So we're still talking from the point of view of a performer. No, well, always it's two performers talking, but a point of view of a student and teacher relationship. But the whole aim, which is only really sort of fully becoming clear as we go here now, is that Jay in the school is specifically working with jugglers, but it could be applied to magicians, or it could be applied to acrobats, or whatever it is that you do. And what he is asking what he is asking questions about is done to be able to foster artistic development and to help the jugglers discover who they are as artists. You always come into a school or into a situation and you already think that you know who you are. Because that's what you do. But in a good relationship, teacher-student relationship, or why you go to a school, is to expand. It's to develop yourself and to become more than what you were when you arrived. So through these seemingly simple exercises, you can expand. So let's jump back right into it here now.
So I was just saying that in terms of making choices, then there's the game, the yes or no game. If you say yes, then you just lock in your decision. Yeah. You don't have any more indecision. So you stop wasting extra effort worrying about it then. And you can go back and change your mind later. It's okay to have a different opinion tomorrow. But for now, you just say, I like it, yes, then don't think about it anymore. It's locked in. But then if you say no, then you say, why don't I like it? And this is a game, again, that the same way that you would learn to do 5-ball back crosses by practicing and repeating, trying to do the trick. We also practice how to speak to ourselves. And the way that I say, generally, again, you take a juggler, they do something, and you say, why did you do that? Generally, they'll say either, I don't know, or at the best, as a first step, they'll say, oh, I thought it was cool. Yeah. And what I try to do is we try to drill down to words that are specific, because words like cool, or I thought it was nice, or it felt good, or it looked awesome, or even stuff like, well, it was really hard or tricky. That's a little bit better. Tricky is better than cool, but they're too general. So what I try to do is we try to practice using language by asking questions like, why did you do that? And then you can just keep asking. You can be like a toddler, and you can keep asking why. So then you say, why did you do that? Oh, I thought it was cool. Okay, why was it cool? Well, it felt good. Why did it feel good? Well, it was just something I was thinking about. Well, what were you thinking about? And then eventually, if you keep pestering someone enough, they will actually say a word of value. So they'll be like, well, I was thinking about when I was walking to school. You were thinking about walking. I get a connection there between what you just did and walking. You were thinking about moving through space. You were moving forward. You were thinking about, from A to B. Now there's something to really work with that we can start to play with. Yeah. We can make
walking is a concrete thing, is an action. It's something that that is concrete, as opposed to I did this because it felt good, and then I did this other thing that is seemingly unrelated with another prop that also felt good. Exactly. And if you're doing these two things next to each other just based on how you felt when you did it, that's also a criteria, but it's not concrete.
So what you do then is you take that word walking, for example, and you say, okay, so in one way you were inspired to do this little moment or throw or trick or catch because you were thinking about walking. And you had this little idea. Maybe it wasn't a deep idea and you didn't even connect it very concretely, but like we uncovered this through poking at you and saying why. And then what you can do is you say, great, new assignment. We have a new task. Make 10 tricks about walking. Yeah. And the chances are that maybe those tricks you make about walking, you'll also think are cool and that they also felt good. Yeah. Because we established that was one quality of this thing that you did now that you liked, right?
So you're after now 10 tricks that are feel good, to you and that are cool, for instance, and that they are also about walking. You go, then you would have 3 parameters. If cool, because it might be that when you go, so do you know what you mean by feeling good and cool?
Right.
Because then if that is, then maybe you will end up with a cool, feel good routine about walking.
Right.
Like that it could be, but maybe those 2 first ones often actually was blind alleys. That you said, was it cool? Yeah, it was cool. But was that bit more cool than this thing that you didn't do? Maybe not. Okay, let's just take cool out of the equation.
Yeah, it's hard to. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. The other aspect to the whole work is you never in class. I'm talking in class, like in this formal environment, in this formal process where we're just practicing these things. You never try to do something good.
Learning about exploration almost.
Like, don't try to do something good.
Oh yeah.
Just do something.
Yeah.
It goes back to the indecision then. The indecision thing of inefficiency, of wasting energy worrying about things that in that moment you're not there to worry about things.
But this is the same with all improv. When you're doing any improv class, when you're going to improvise, a big part of what you do is to say the first thing that you say. And not stopping and thinking again. Like, so you go, some thought comes into your head going, I'm a fireman. And you go, oh, that's too obvious.
Right.
And if you didn't say that now, there's just somebody standing there and the scene is gone and they will beat the drum and tell you to leave.
Exactly.
Next person on. And you just got to go with the first thing and you say it. And then the other one goes, oh, that's a bit obvious. Yeah, I thought that. But then and now there's a dialogue happening or whatever. So maybe in all kind of improv, if you're part of that flow is to go, just make the decision. And then you're chatting about it later and you can always improve on it.
Absolutely.
Like when you write a book.
And you can feel differently about it the next day, no problem. You can change your mind, that's totally allowed.
And you're also going to improve on it, that's what I meant with it's like writing a book. It's like the first draft is famously always terrible. And you think you've written all of it down, but then you're going to look at that and now you go, what is it that I'm saying in this chapter? You go, oh, this whole chapter doesn't matter, and it narrows it down, and then you can improve on it if you're going to continue to work. But also, I get the experience that I get the feeling that you also through these exercises going, this exercise that we do now about time and space and juggling, and it turns out now that it's about walking, so movement through space in a certain period of time in the pace of walking. That's what, so you're narrowing it down. But ultimately, these things don't matter. We're going to take these exercises and then we're going to throw it away, and this is not going to be part of, because you actually do 4 Diabolos in your act. And that's what it's about. But next time when you're going to make another act, you're learning about the act of making choices and taking decisions.
It's the first year. We're establishing a process. We're establishing a protocol. But more importantly, you're also learning about yourself. You're learning about what you like and don't like.
Yeah.
And it's not just to analyze your own thoughts and your own work in that moment. That's why, let's say we have a class with 5 students and they all do different types of juggling. It's just as valuable. Let's say you do Diablo and I do ball bouncing. It's just as valuable for you to examine your choices with the Diablo as it is to hear about my choices with the ball bouncing.
Yeah.
Because it's all about looking at the world and having this critical eye towards things and to refine your own sense of judgment. So it's not just looking at your own work, but now once you've had this kind of experience of saying, wait, why did I make that choice? You can, because I do this all the time with the students. I say, hey, so have you seen a juggling show, or have you seen a circus show, or have you seen a theater show or a music concert that you like? And everybody, oh yeah, I've seen one. Cool, so which one is it? And they name the thing they saw. Oh, why did you like it? And it's the same process again. Oh, it was cool. It was fun. Yeah,
it makes me feel good to watch it.
Awesome. Yeah. And then let's drill that down to actual concrete words. And for me, that's a system I use in my life personally.
What was the coolest moment of the show?
Well, I go around the whole world looking at anything in terms of my artistic life, and I try to say concrete words. Frodo, I liked your show because of, and I try to say something really specific that's identifiable, because once you identify what you start to think is cool and feels good, then you can do more of that thing.
Yeah,
it's not a shot in the dark anymore.
That you say it, that I also do that. It's like you go, and sometimes you also know, I find it really difficult to make an opinion about something, like writing a review about something. I can't do it. I find it very intimidating myself, because the work is so rich, but the only way to attack it is to go, what spoke to me? And sometimes while I then go, oh, I like the fact that that everyone was over here and that person was alone. That made me, all of a sudden it spoke to me, this, the acrobat here and there, they were running, whatever. And then from there I can sometimes begin to kind of pull out the thread of what it was, and the conversation emerges from that. So you sort of penetrate the work a little bit by finding one thing that was good, and then you can say that, and then sometimes you get closer to the essence of it by just picking at it like that.
Right. I mean, to kind of wrap up this little arc here with what's the point of all this is, again, in the first year you're establishing a protocol, a relationship, a working method, a framework, or whatever. But what you're doing is you're establishing a common language. So then eventually, actually, Frodo, with me and you, for example, at this point in our discussions of our lives, you can tell me something is cool, and that word cool has meaning because I know what you mean by the word cool. But the word cool to anybody else in the outside world, it's too big of a word, it's too big of a definition. But me and you, we've established enough repertoire that between us, shared experiences between us, that when you say something is cool, I can trust what that means. And I try to do the same thing with the students, that first you have to be specific to establish some sort of common language, common experience, and then you can go on further. And maybe in the future, it is more efficient to in the third year, for example, and they're working on their graduating act or something, right? And then they can do a start to the act, and I go, that's cool. And then when I say that word there, we have all this history behind us where there's we can do a shorthand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can start to code it. But at the beginning, you have to deconstruct it and tear it apart and examine exactly what do people mean and who are you and what do you think and what do I think. You have to establish 2 points of view to have the conversation. Otherwise, you're just talking in circles. And otherwise, if you just keep using the undefined, vague words your whole life, it's always shots in the dark. And I'll tell you maybe the final little story about that, which is when I worked for Jerome Thomas Company, and every morning we would go in, we were there in Paris, we would walk in and do our juggling practice, each individual company member, and I would grind out 3 hours a day of just super high technique, balls, rings, clubs, numbers, tricks, body throws, whatever, pirouettes. I was young back then. But there was another French juggler who would come in every day. He would bring 3 white silicone balls, white ones, where he's serious. They're not different colors. And he would do yoga meditation yoga for a good hour to 2 hours every day. I mean, super hardcore yoga, like really physically fit mover, dancer type of juggler. And then he would finally, after maybe 2.5 hours of preparation, while I'm sweating and grinding out this whole time, he's just in the middle of the room, just being zen and meditating, breathing. He would pick up the white balls and he would look up at the ceiling, and sometimes he would start juggling, and he might juggle for another hour before it was lunchtime, and he would do nice stuff. But some days he'd pick up the balls and then he would just walk out of the room without throwing a single one. And some days, anywhere in between, he would pick up the balls and juggle for 5 minutes and leave, or 12 minutes, etc. So after this happened for a few months, I went and asked him, I said, hey, I'm just curious, I see you every morning, we're doing our morning practice, because then in the afternoon we would work together on the show. But in the morning, do what you want. And I said, I noticed that sometimes you juggle and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And so what's happening there? And he said, I'm waiting for the God of inspiration to strike me. And I prepare my body, I prepare my mind, I prepare my soul. And sometimes when I pick the balls up, the God blesses me with the inspiration to juggle, and then I can juggle. But some mornings, he doesn't do that to me. So then I just have to leave and wait till the next day in case it happens again. And I thought in that moment, I was around 18 years old or 20 years old or something. I'm really glad I had that experience when I was that young, because I had a thought, not about the moment of how tragic it is every day, that you prepare for 2 hours and you breathe and you're mentally ready, but then the God doesn't strike you with lightning. I thought that was really, honestly sad and a little bit tragic, of like, oh, well, it sucks. You went through all that work and it didn't pay off. But I had a vision of myself. This is when I was, when I met this person, 19 years old, whatever. I had a vision of myself 50 years in the future. And every single day, the God of inspiration had struck me with lightning for 50 years, every day. and then actually after 50 years the God stopped, giving me lightning. That would be the worst life I had ever lived, right? Because for 50 years you fool yourself into relying and trusting that the God will strike you with lightning. But then after 50 years, you don't have a sustainable practice where you manifest that process yourself.
Yeah.
And then you just wake up one day and you don't want to juggle anymore. And then I would just be the most sad person because I like the juggling the most.
But also because you have an astounding expertise, which I experienced this when the pandemic came.
Right.
And I have so much that I could do.
Right.
But when you take away the audiences, I am the fourth person in line for the job at bagging groceries.
Yeah.
Because I have nothing.
Right.
I can have some people skills or whatever, but unless you already know them and they give you the time of day, all I know is to balance a stick and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so to relate that concretely to what I was saying, again, to really point it out, is like, we're not taking stabs in the dark anymore. If you keep saying, I like this because it's cool, then you're just searching in the dark for cool. You're waiting for the God of lightning, of thunder to strike you with inspiration, and you'll find the cool. Until you define what is cool, you can't intentionally find it again.
Seek it out, yeah.
Right, exactly. And
so
once
you're making the process of exploration, research, creation of work more conscious.
So you just said it. So like I said, at the beginning, I tried to think, why is there a juggling program in a school at this level, of a university level? And I had a few reasons. And one reason was efficiency, and then we can talk about the process of that, which we did. But the number one reason to have the juggling program in a school, I thought, over all my years of 25 years of doing this, the number one thing is consciousness. Meaning, I don't think it's the institution or the school's job to tell you what to do. But what they're there for is to give you, to open your eyes to the choices you're making. So if someone walks into the class and they have their left shoulder sticking up super high, and they're leaning over at the waist, and they're bent back, and they're struggling to do 5-ball juggling, it's not my place to say, hey, you got to lower your shoulder, you got to stand up straight, you got to center your center of gravity. That's not my point. My point is to say, hey, did you know that your shoulder's sticking up in the air? Did you know you're leaning really far back? Did you know you're twisting your hips? And then the student can say, yes, I know. It's part of a character I'm working on. Or whatever they want to say. It's a conscious choice. Then it's fine. Yep. Then we can work from there. It's not, I don't think there's any absolute right or wrong answer to any of it. Even technique, I don't think is right.
Just tell me that you're doing this on purpose.
Exactly. Or that you considered the other options at least.
Yeah. Anyway, so you found that this will be your mode, how you will stand. Yep. This will be how you stick out from the crowd.
Conscious choice.
We want to hire the crooked juggler.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Or whatever.
That's
right?
great.
Yeah.
But
or any sort of even, that's a physical example.
And this then leads us back to this thing that I've been trying to unpack or whatever with concrete and abstract or whatever where Eva says it's about intention, that if you are doing the crooked thing because you're going to be the crooked juggler, then you're doing it with intention. But because I am asking you, it's also clear, this other thing that we just uncovered, that it's not just enough that you have that intention, because I'm looking at you and I wonder, is this intentional or not? Because I can't tell.
Right.
So now you need to work on communicating the fact or making that so okay that it's somehow the fact that you're the crooked juggler gets transmitted to the audience so that they go, oh wow, like what is it with this guy? Does he have some what's it called, spinal bifida, that thing that makes you like
Quasimodo.
It's a Quasimodo
reference.
Yeah. He's gonna juggle bells.
And the first step of communicating any idea to the audience is understanding what that idea is.
Yeah.
Right? And that's consciousness in terms of I made a choice, I had an opinion, I have a point of view that I want to share to a certain degree. Yeah. And it doesn't, again, how that interpretation happens is flexible, and the end result is flexible. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
But the starting point, the core, is knowing yourself, knowing what you like and what you don't like, and knowing what you want to do. And it doesn't mean it has to be drilled down to the 100th degree, that every single, I is dotted and T is crossed, and every single.
But this is what happens when you've done an act 1,000 times. Like when I have done my act, because I have this one act and people keep booking it, I have then the opportunity to drill into all those details. And when you encounter it, you go, this is a finished piece somehow. It's a thing living strong, and it is expressive. You feel that because you've had a chance to look at all these details. And that's kind of what this exercise then was about. You can throw anything away at any time. But there are rules, and if this is the idea that you're going with now, make sure that it is your actual intention. And that connects to what Tom Grader was saying about making sure that everything that you do in the show is important. Because if you do it in the show and it's not important, and the audience clocks onto the fact that bit that you just showed them now, those tricks, or that when you put the props down on the floor, whatever that bit is, that this has no point, no value in the show, they go, oh, this is the kind of show where some of the stuff is not of value. They sit back and start watching the show, and if you're unlucky, they might stop caring altogether because they can't anymore distinguish what's important and what's not.
Right.
So,
can I tag one quick
please?
thing on here? Because I think in one way this process, at least in my mind, to a new student, it can be intimidating or daunting, or it can seem overwhelming.
Yeah,
because you're kind of asking someone to say, hey, you have to know what you're doing explicitly, in order to do it. And I think that that's a huge task, and they don't quite understand on what level this and how to interpret that, right? Because we never know 1,000% exactly what we're doing, or when we start, where's the curiosity, where's the openness to try to find new things. So I try to explain it like this. Because we are generally in Stockholm Circus School, it's an artistic university. And then we have this premise that we're going to be artists. And that you can follow that line of thought a little bit further and say that we're going to express things with what we do. And so then we're talking about expressing things through juggling. And I've encountered this before a lot with the students, and people are like, yeah, intellectually, or like, I can comprehend the words. It makes sense. I'm going to express something with juggling. But I think deep down inside and in actual practice, they don't understand what that means. And it sounds like a big thing, right? Like, Frodo, I'm going to express stuff with juggling to you. And you're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And so I have tried to come up with an explanation of what that means.
Oh, yeah, good.
And so I think on the surface, it sounds like I'm going to talk about love, democracy, the aspect of time or war, or the meaning of life.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to juggle 3 balls in a certain pattern that's going to give you some sort of suggestion of those things. Mm-hmm. That's not what I mean at this moment in the development of juggling, in terms of expressing with juggling. What I mean is this. These things can be simple. That's what I want to say. It can be simple things. For example, let's say you start juggling and you're throwing the balls super, super high. And then after a while, I throw them lower, and 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 I throw them lower, right? And then I throw them as low as I can, which means in terms of technique, my hands, when I'm doing the high throws, they're moving slowly. And when I'm doing the slow throws, they're moving fast. Mm-hmm. And there was just a progression from A to B. What are you expressing with that? Mm. I think if you went and showed someone on the street, or I always have the fantasy that I pick my mother, who's not a juggler, as a symbolic, here's a person who doesn't know, inside the work. Then I would show my mom that, and I would say, what did I just do? I think she could say 2 things, and I think you could agree with me. Mm. She would say, you juggled, right? And she would say either you threw higher to lower, or your hands got faster, right? Is that conceivable? You would agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Then you're done. That's what you expressed. What did I express? You expressed juggling, and you expressed the quality of change through time. You expressed the quality of high to low, or you expressed the quality of slow to fast.
And through just seeing that, you would also feel like you watched intentionality.
Yes.
You didn't think that it was a coincidence that it became lower and lower and faster, and that this was a pattern that you had not thought of when you were there. So you go, there is intention behind this that's shining through, and
it's not random.
If one thing went out to the side, you threw one throw really out to the side, you will probably go, that might have been a mistake. And if it happened again at another point, you go, oh no, it was not. It's always lower and lower and faster and faster. But that thing on the side is also now expressing something. First is, what was that?
Because now because once you've established what you're doing is not random, then you can play with the format.
Yeah,
I am going from higher to lower, but one went back higher again, and then it becomes a game. Right?
Oh, it's actually it's not just that it's going down; it's trying to go down, but it keeps going up again.
Yeah.
And then,
so there could be any narrative.
Now it becomes abstract narrative.
Yeah, and so it doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be, oh, you want me to express something through my juggling, which is like, my feelings towards my... Yeah.
It's not crime and punishment.
It's as simple as you sped up while you juggled. Okay, so to take that to the conclusion, then to say that in another way, which is I think more universal to juggling expression of art and juggling and whatever. Yeah. It's that I say it's like this. In juggling, we're going to express something, and the juggling can express something if you want it to. And it can be as simple as this. And I give this to the students as a task. I say, take 3 tricks. We take the shower, we take the reverse cascade, and we take columns, 1 up, 2 up. You have 3 tricks. Do them each for 6 throws each of each pattern, whatever. Put them in any order you want. And that's the task. And you have 30 seconds, right? And after 30 seconds, because it takes no time to do that, you just have to think which one goes next, and you do the patterns. And then we see that, Frodo, you started with the reverse cascade, but I started with the shower. And now we're done. The expression has happened. What it means is you made a different choice than me. Yeah. So all you need to express in juggling are 2 tricks, and you chose the order in which to show them to me. And that's all of showmanship. That is all of expression, is it not?
Well, yeah, it is, and then
you made a choice
as a foundation, anyway.
Yeah,
and then you go, and then you juggle it with this face on, or you juggle it with a bow tie on.
Or you can even start to ask even more fundamentally. But why did you do the shower first? Yeah. And then you go, and then you have that whole discussion again. Normally, and they go, oh, I don't know. Yeah. Or it was cool, or it felt good, and then you start the process again.
Yeah, and then you ask that.
But I think it's intimidating when you hear like, juggling is art. It's like, well, I don't quite know what that means. Yeah. And then you go, well, we're in a circus school and we're all going to be artists with our circus. And you're like, yeah, that's something people talk a lot about. And then you say, now we're going to do juggling that expresses something. And you're like, oh my God, I don't know what that's going to actually mean. Yeah. And then you have this 3-year journey in a school and you're going to graduate. You're going to do that graduation act that's going to express everything you build up over 3 years. And it's so dramatic. At the end of the day, what I'm talking about expression is, and the reason it is expression is because you made a choice to show me this thing first and that thing next. And it's your personality and who you are that had that make sense to you. Because for me, I did not do the shower first. I did columns first, and you're crazy for doing the shower first. Who would do that? That makes no sense. But that tells who you are, and that tells who I am. And I know this is a very surface level introduction to this concept, but that is how you connect yourself to an audience eventually. Yeah,
and you start with this as first-year students, and you start in the conversation, and this started with me going, how do you take something abstract and make it concrete? And here you're bringing in how to make choices, and that the act of making the choice is ultimately all that's up to you. You go, am I going to do this magic trick or that magic trick? Am I going to do this method or that method? Do I want the effect to be like this or like that? Do I want to... And once you answer those things, and there's 1,000 ways to do that. Look in the mirror, make a video, ask someone's opinion, just sit there and think about it. But basically it's that navigating the choices. And then we also uncovered this thing of intentionality. And
well, you find out that through making choices you do have an intention. Yeah. Even if that intention is hidden to yourself, that if you dig deep enough and you are and you practice enough to be open to finding out what that is, then it's easier and easier to find, and it's easier to also to manifest what you want to do. And going back to working in France and waiting for the lightning to hit your head and make you juggle. Then in this way to be creative, I mean, come on, I'm also in the mood sometimes to be creative than others. I'm tired sometimes, or I'm full of energy sometimes, or whatever. But what I'm saying is, it's never bigger than making an action and then saying, do I like it, yes or no? And so that can be a very exhausting process, just to say, like, it's constant, it's this constant kind of like framework that you're in. But I would much rather, and but that's the thing, is it's always constant forward movement. You always just say, do I like it, yes or no? And that's always just you can just keep taking steps forward. Even when you say no, you're uncovering why you don't like it. And so you're always kind of moving incrementally forward.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, with this kind of working method, you might make 20 tricks in an hour, and 19 of them are, in the end, they're bad, and one is good. But at least you made one good trick.
Yeah, but
and I'll take those odds.
Yeah, it's the same when you're writing as well. It's like you're writing something, whether it's let's just say it's me writing the speech that was, because we watched that yesterday with Eva, when I talked about schooling, education, world of school, and I did a magic routine, which is a reworking of another routine, where I started out with all these, what are the ideas that are important here? And I start out with something, and then you start to jam with the two, and then you go, well, these ideas can't fit. And in there, I sort of knew that I wanted to stick relatively close in terms of the tricks that I did with the magic tricks. I just wanted to do the new text and ideas and use the same ways of illustrating that, or the connections that I had in the previous version of this routine. And then I am juggling the words in many ways too, because you're juggling the words together with, so you go, oh, is this a better way to express that? Is this another way? And I wanted to be feeling informal, but being so in a way, I'm also constantly making those same choices. Is this the best way to line up the words? Because in a certain sense, that's all an author does. So when you're delivering text, it's just you're deciding which word goes after the other.
Yeah, and instead of it's in the small details of those forward movements that you can be creative. Instead of, again, the society has that romantic image of the tortured genius who just has the lightning bolt to the head and they write the symphony immediately. And so I think there is, for me, at least growing up, there was an intimidation of walking into the empty studio and saying, now I'm going to make some juggling. And that juggling has to be good, and it has to be amazing, and it has to be better than the other people, and it has to make me money, and it has to express myself.
Yeah.
Then I just don't, I'm frozen.
Then
I don't
you can't
move.
do anything, because each choice, yeah.
So
that's it. So you got to make some restrictions on there too, constrictions. You decide, I'm going to just focus on, this is going to be very technically difficult or whatever. Yeah. I want it to be on the edge of what's possible for me. That's one choice.
Yeah, and
Fun
on the
or otherwise, I don't know, but like.
Yeah, and once you practice making these choices and you start to learn a little bit more about yourself and what you like and what you don't like and how you can implement those things into your work, then you can put you can put yourself inside any box. You can put yourself inside a technical box and say, now I'm going to push the technical and creative limit of what I'm trying to do with, like, physically with what I'm working with. Or you can put yourself in any other sort of box, such as, hey, let's make a show that makes a lot of money, right? Like, you can start to have other sorts of constructs or concepts that you put yourself inside. So the physical thing of what you're working with, but also the larger, like, hey, let's make a show that makes a commentary about the environment. Yeah. Let's make a show that blah, 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 blah. Like, anything works now because you're
and then you just go, okay, we're going to talk about the environment. I just did this sequence. Is it good?
Yeah, is it good? Do I like it? And also, why do I like it?
Yeah, or like, but not like going why, but it's like going, is this expressing my thought that I've now said down about the environment? Yes or no? Yes, no.
And because also then you have a thought.
Yeah.
And that you can articulate. Because I'm sure we all have thoughts. To be real, right? Like, everybody has a thought. Everybody has an intention. It's being able to articulate it. That's the key.
Articulate it, and in being able when you can articulate it to yourself, it's like this John Dewey says, it's like formulating a good, solid question is the problem half solved.
Exactly, because I think most people, if you would say, for example, a first-year student or even myself or whatever, hey, what do you want to do ultimately with your juggling? And I think it's easy to say, well, I want to juggle good. I want, hey, I heard you're making a new show. Like, what do you want to do with the new show? Oh, I want it to be good. Again, good. It's so ambiguous.
Just wishy-washy. Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't guide you anywhere. You need to have a structure in place by which you can make decisions against. And that's why we
good
struggle.
is the same as yes. Okay, you're going to keep this then.
Right.
Which is good means, are you going to keep this or continue working on it? Yes. Are you going to throw it out? No. Good. But you could say that becomes your...
We struggled so hard when we wrote Reflex together to really define what's the show about. Not because we had to give that answer to anybody but ourselves, so that we could start to edit decisions against what we had decided.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Hey, what's the show Reflex about? Well, juggling. Okay, so that means I can juggle this. Well, it's juggling. I don't know. Or it doesn't help you, but you have to say, okay, Reflex is about X, Y, and Z. Then any sort of thing you want to have a question about, you have a standard
That's exactly
against
right.
to compare it.
That's right. And the clarity of us being able to say that, we want to say that juggling is art, and make that point in such a way that when you started to juggle the sticks, which is 3 objects but they're tied together so you can't not drop them, etc. So we want to have all of those addressed, and that was one of those things. That part 1 of the show is to make it, when you juggle the sticks, they will go, how interesting. With all the stuff that you've said to me now and shown me in juggling and stuff beforehand, all of a sudden they come with you on your exploration, whilst often from a community which sees the triangular ring and gets angry, they now go, I can follow you through. Just like if you juggle that ring, the triangle at that point, they go, oh, how interesting. I can't do this with any of the objects that I have had before, and I didn't know because I got angry when it came there. And you go, oh, maybe open it up a little bit. So
and maybe the final aspect of having a juggling education in a, let's say, a higher learning environment like a university, and this is a whole other thing, but it's, so you have consciousness, you have efficiency, and you have belief in yourself. And it's the belief in yourself too. I mean, it sounds so cheesy or cliche or something. It's not something anybody talks about, but just to believe in yourself, which also comes down to having ambition, but believing in your ideas, standing up for them. And again, that comes back to being a good editor, making strong, like standing behind your choices, having reasons for what, hey, you wore red pants, you wore a blue shirt. Why'd you do that? And you believe in yourself enough to say, well, I made a choice and I have a reason for it and I believe in it. Because so much of, like when we did Reflex, there wasn't one way that the show could come out that it would be good.
Yeah.
There was an infinite ways the show could be good, and there was an infinite ways for the show to be bad.
Yeah, probably more ways that the shows could be bad.
Yeah, right.
But anyway,
But so you believe in yourself, and you just make you make a path, you make a choice, and that's what you give to the audience, and you have to stand behind it with conviction. And that comes a little bit with intention, right?
Yeah, and I keep thinking of clarity of vision here, but I also think that the idea was also how to take an abstract idea and make it concrete. And this is a good example of taking one thing which is very abstract. How do you develop a clarity of vision? Because then I was thinking of, I can't remember what the name of her was, but Victor, what's his name? Victor from yesterday?
Yeah, Victor Gilligan.
Yeah, so he works in a dance company, and this woman who's the choreographer of that one, when we had this great little conversation with him, what she does is with in the way that he said, infinite clarity goes, the chair has to be there.
Yeah.
After much playing, there's going to be a car on stage, it's going to be covered with grass, it has to be here. And when we come into the space, it has to be exactly there. And when you move your arm up, she's a dance choreographer, then it has to be at this pace. And she will drill you specifically a little bit faster. And then it's modern abstract dance for children, and the children are riveted. And it's a very popular show. Permanent employees going around doing all this, and kids are loving modern dance. That to me is a clarity of vision. And he is not being the person who is teaching them about recycling. He is just being a dog for this moment, and then he's being this, and the children are laughing and getting involved. And that to me is like, that clarity of vision goes, they don't know why, but the preciseness of the thing works. And that was kind of that, like, she has somehow gained that practice of saying yes or no and expressing with clarity
what
it is that she
wants.
wants.
She has conviction and a belief in what she's doing, and
then you can do something which is so abstract, and abstractness, or just waffling on like you and me now does. The children will just find it so boring, and this is nothing, like if it's not anything to grab onto. But somehow this woman can coax out of her fellow dancers and jugglers these movements that rivets the children, and that I find fascinating. Then it's communicating, I don't know what, but that's the beauty of abstract things, is that it can communicate all sorts of stuff streaming at you, just depending on what is going on inside you, how you meet it, and what you see in it. So
and you can take all these concepts then on whatever conceptual level you want. You can drill it all the way down. So Claire Parsons, who Victor works for, she can be really specific about the quality of movement of raising your arm, and that's a very minute detail, right? But you still have that clarity of vision at that level. But then you can abstract it up a level, like what's the clarity of vision of the show, what's the clarity of vision of the company, what's the clarity of vision of your life or work, etc. As an artist, you see what I mean?
Totally.
Your career. Whatever.
Yeah, and it's also, yet again, there is depth, infinite depth and mystery in everything if you pay attention enough and you care about it enough. So you and me lift our arms and it is a non-event. But Claire can make Victor move his arm and the kids love it. So there you go. She's uncovering that. Well done.
Cool.
All right, and that to me, for that time being, and of course I've continued on exploring this concept of making sure that we are saying something and that we are capturing the people's attention when we say it. But this episode here brings to a close this exploration over the last 3 or 4 episodes of making abstract things concrete. And the last idea here of the shows of Claire Parsons and making something which is so abstract like modern dance. I'm sure there are examples of it not being abstract, but making that riveting for children, that shows that the ideas can be quite loose and still be thoroughly engaging. And I believe that this idea of clarity of vision that then expresses intent in the choices that's being taken, that there is something valuable in that. So to me, these last few episodes of first exploring it with Eva and Jay, and now in these last 2 episodes exploring it with Jay through the lens of teaching, and of course it's through teaching from his point of view, but it's also through development, as artistic development of the students. But that student, as we've explored in the previous episode, the one that is being educated is you listening right now. Like, are you being conscious of the choices that you're making? And are you asking a question and then asking, do I like that choice that I took? And is this choice furthering my way of expressing whatever I want to express with the show? Even if that what you want to express is just, I want it to look cool after all we've said about that, or I want it to look impressive, or I want it to be surprising, or I want to make a lot of money. Then you go, is this the choice that should be taken to make the most amount of money? And what do we see when we see a commercial show like that? All it does is just it transports us into feeling good all the way through. And that is probably the most secure way for getting word of mouth to spread and all that sort of stuff. But be all of that as it may, I feel that some progress has been made in clarifying how to take choices when you're creating abstract work. And although there's still a part of me that hasn't sort of been convinced enough that I would just do abstract work, and maybe I still am struggling with abstract in that I've not taken the right intentions or so, and maybe I am still somehow belittling it because I'm always seeing it through my own lens. And I know whenever I do an act, if I, for instance, choose not to talk and I just do a sequence of movements or whatever choices or magic tricks following in a row, I know that people like it more when I start to say something, and I know that they start liking it more when when those things, what I say in the beginning, adds up and connects the stuff together. So even though I find it really funny when I think, oh, it's great, and then I just do this, and then I just randomly do this next thing, I know that as time goes on, if I continue on performing the material, I start to connect it up together, and I guess through that then I am actually discovering what the intentions are, and then it becomes concrete. So maybe the line between abstract and concrete performance is a lot more blurry than I first anticipated when I joined or got these fellow thinkers and artists to help to explore it with me. And anyway, I hope that you've gotten something out of this, because this hasn't been these last 4 episodes or so. I really feel like I have been coming in here with a question, not having an answer that I wanted the others to conform to. I really wanted to try and grasp something, and it is in clarity of vision and intention, and making that intention seen in the work. And how do we ensure that that happens? Well, I hope you try it out in your own work, and if you make some progress or you have some ideas, then please contact me on thewayoftheshowman@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram on thewayoftheshowman on Instagram, and why not follow us there, and also follow this podcast. Just click subscribe to it. It helps the algorithms find me more easily if you like it, and it also allows you to be notified when there's new episodes coming and everything. So I hope the new year's treating you well. Until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.